Let's talk about Wuthering Heights, its ending, and what exactly does this mean? Now, I am going to do a video where I'm going to discuss the difference between the book as well as the film, because there's a lot of difference, especially that ending. Here we are just going straight into the ending and discussing that. So let's talk about it, what exactly happened here, and what the hell did Emerald Fennell do to Wuthering Heights? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You let me know in the comments down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification. On the road to 50,000 subscribers, let's talk about the film Wuthering Heights. So the film follows Catherine, played by Margot Robbie, as she is a young child. That's where the movie basically starts off. She's watching a hanging take place. Her father, Mr. Earnshaw, is this man who seems to be trying to do good, but this gambling addiction, alcoholism is definitely getting to him. And over time, we see that he eventually adopts a young boy named Heathcliff that he will raise alongside Catherine, but he sort of calls Heathcliff as Catherine's pet. And Catherine seems to have a fondness towards Heathcliff here. She talks about a brother that passed away, and that's one of the major differences from the book and the movie, but I won't get into those differences here. We're just talking straight about the movie here. So we see that their relationship ultimately blossoms. We see that Nellie, who is also there with Catherine, who seems to be a friend of sorts, a servant almost, but is above the rest. It doesn't really sort of talk about what exactly her role is here, but she really isn't a servant per se, because they do have people that take care of the house and all of that, but it's not Nellie. Nellie is more there to be like a confidant, a sort of friend for hire is what she's called at times, which really irks her to hear that she is just there at Catherine's whim and all of this. So Nellie already has her own things as well. Heathcliff, of course, not being the son of Earnshaw, pretty much gets the worst end of the stick at times, and we see that during a moment when he gets severely beat when him and Catherine disobey Mr. Earnshaw during his birthday, and this eventually leads them to, I believe, get a little bit closer, as well as Catherine sees that Heathcliff is ready to do whatever it takes for Catherine. We see them grow over time, and over time Mr. Earnshaw's whole alcoholism, his gambling addiction, all of that gets worse to the point where they are pretty much going to go into ruin, that they don't have any more money. And so we see that this leads Catherine to go to extremes, to believe that she just has to wed one of the new neighbors that they have, the Lintons, because that's the only way that they're going to get money. Of course, Heathcliff isn't really about that, because he starts to develop these feelings towards Catherine throughout the film, and we see this back and forth between the two, if they will, if they won't. But ultimately, Catherine decides that she needs to venture out and see what is going to happen with the Lintons, because she sees this as her only escape. And we see that she does this, and as she is spying on them one day, she inadvertently falls. Isabella and Edgar come and find her and take her in for a couple of weeks. And this is great news to Earnshaw, as he believes this is Catherine's golden ticket, but Heathcliff is not about it and wants Catherine to return. When she eventually does return, she pretty much tells Nellie that she has a choice whether to marry Linton as he has proposed to her, or to follow her heart and be with Heathcliff. Now, Nellie is on the side of, hey, we need financial stability and all of this, and also you're pretty much like a crybaby and all of this, just crying, just go marry Edgar. And she does know that Heathcliff is listening to this, but Catherine doesn't, and she wants to hurt Heathcliff in that moment so he can go away, because she's just been pissed at Catherine and just wants her to do this decision that will pretty much benefit everybody here. So eventually we do see that Catherine does marry Linton, especially when she realizes that Heathcliff did leave the estate, and she has a pretty good time, you could say. She's starting a family here. She is now pregnant, and it seems that she has all of the riches. As time passes on, eventually we see that Heathcliff does return, and now he is much more charming. You could say he's also richer as well, wealthier, and he has decided to buy Wuthering Heights, where he is there with Mr. Earnshaw and is pretty much just living it up, right? But deep down, he still wants Catherine, who of course is with Edgar at the moment. We see that this eventually starts an affair between the two that is seemingly going to be quiet and kept shut. This also is the moment we see that Mr. Earnshaw dies, and it pretty much sends Catherine into more of a spiral as their affair continues. And what happens next is pretty much Catherine decides to call it off. She's not with us anymore, and she thinks it should end, especially once Heathcliff finds out that she is pregnant, as he says he doesn't care, that he will continue to pursue her. She's just like, you know what? I think this has to come to an end. So we see that she eventually ends this, and this sends Heathcliff into a complete spiral, and he is about to pretty much be as cruel as he can be, as he decides to get with Isabella and make her fawn over him, and eventually they will get married. And this is just to spite Catherine. He has her as almost like a dog, which was kind of like a out of left field thing. Not the same in the book as well, and I think you already got that, but we'll talk more about those differences in another video. We see that this is very much so aching at Catherine's heart, and she is just done with life. She doesn't want to continue, so we see her be in this very melancholic state where she is going pale, and she says that she's lost the baby to Nellie, and Nellie's not really believing her at the moment. We also see that Nellie is burning all of the letters that Catherine's being sent by Heathcliff and Isabella, where they're trying to make her jealous and try to get a word from her. But for Catherine, it seems that Heathcliff has gone completely cold and has cut her off completely. So this eventually leads her to ultimately just go into more despair and eventually sepsis, it seems, as she has lost the baby and the baby's just been inside of her. So we see that she is developed sepsis, eventually just dies there in her room as Edgar is there watching on. And Heathcliff is told about this as well once Nellie decides to visit him, and she tells him what just happened as he rushes over to her and finds her dead at her bedside. As the movie concludes with Heathcliff holding her, and we see a flashback of them as kids saying that he is never going to leave her side, never ever. So we see that that's pretty much where the film ends, with both of them at the deathbed of Catherine. And it was a movie where we saw that things definitely spiraled out of control. It was a movie where these characters were cruel to each other back and forth, and a lot of it was with class, a lot of it was with society and how things would be viewed. We heard Catherine at the beginning say she wasn't sure she should be with somebody like Heathcliff, and she thinks she would be better off with somebody like Edgar. And so this was a big sort of like thing that rifted them, because we saw that Catherine was definitely somebody who wanted everything at the same time. She was possessive of Heathcliff, and this is why she was never really able to let him go, only when she felt that she needed to let him go. Once Heathcliff was with somebody else like Isabella, we saw that that was what was hurting her the most. She just wanted everything at the same time. And I think it goes back to Catherine's childhood and how she was raised by Mr. Earnshaw, as well as losing her brother. And I think that's where Catherine's possessiveness stems from. And that's why we see that once Heathcliff is out of the picture, and the multiple times it happens in the film, we see this is when she starts to really spiral. But once she has that ground control and Heathcliff is back, we see this is when she flourishes. But she also wants to keep the relationship with Edgar going, as they are also going to have a child. Heathcliff, on the other hand, is somebody who comes from nothing, and Catherine was one of the very few people and only people in his life that showcased passion, love, affection, and this relationship that he's never really had with anybody. And he was willing to go to whatever lengths it took to keep that, even getting beat by Mr. Earnshaw, even having to come back and keep his relationship with her a secret, going as far as to say that he would even kill Edgar for her. And I think this is when Catherine heard those words and decided that enough is enough and they have to call it off. But even though she wanted and her mind was telling her that that was it, I think her heart ultimately was broken by the thought of Heathcliff leaving with Isabella. Isabella was okay with just being used by Heathcliff in order to spite Catherine. This is something that she made clear from the beginning. So that's what we see happen throughout. And I think eventually her own mind breaks at the thought of not having Heathcliff anymore when Nellie comes for them after Catherine has died. So we see all of these characters just ultimately end in despair, from Edgar, Heathcliff, Catherine, Isabella, and Nellie. I think Nellie as well, out of spite for Catherine, all of this, didn't really know where she was going with everything that she was doing, and she kind of blames herself for what happened to Catherine, because if she would have just given her the letters from Heathcliff and they could have continued this game back and forth, then she might be alive. But I think the part that really spited Nellie was when Catherine was trying to let go of her, when she found out what she had done to Heathcliff by letting him hear what Catherine was saying about marrying Edgar and not really going to him and telling him the truth. So I think that all of these characters committed these cruel acts to one another, not really thinking of the consequences or how this would affect them later down the line. And we saw that this pretty much ended in a horrific tragedy. So that's pretty much the end right there. I think it's a film about this love that was just so fast. It was hard, like lightning striking. And then once it struck and the smoke cleared and all of that, it was passionate. It was all of this, but there was nothing left grief, but despair and all of that. So pretty much a very tragic ending. I will talk more about the differences from the book and the film in another video, so stay tuned for that, probably tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Wuthering Heights as well as its ending. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Do you hate the differences in the book that they did, or are you loving this new adaptation? Like I said, adaptations are always going to be different. Take them as they are, and I think you will enjoy them a lot more. But let me know what you thought about the ending and all of that. And as always, I'll see all of you next time. We're on the road to 50,000 subscribers. Hit that notification bell, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.